Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we've got a fun episode. We've already been talking in the green room moments ago, as you might have overheard. So a lot of good discussion around today's topic, and that's digital currencies here in 2021. What is the current state of digital currencies? What's happening? What's not happening? Where are things going as this year looks like a very big inflection point for digital currencies? We saw a huge wave of not just digital currencies, but projects both in the digital currency and crypto space, along with blockchain. Huge gains and runs around 2017. Come full circle 4 years later here in 2021. Digital currencies are talk everywhere around the world, from governments to enterprise to consumers to the everyday individual. We are looking at how digital currencies are going to play a bigger role in our lives. And as I do with these topics, I've got a few headlines for you. Yesterday, we spoke about the world of blockchain, and more in particular around decentralized finance. Less than 24 hours ago to this episode, talking around DeFi, we looked at the total locked value. The TLV, or total locked value, for DeFi projects less than 24 hours ago was at $28 billion. Less than a year ago, last May 2020, it had just crossed the $1 billion mark. Here we are again, less than 24 hours later. We have now crossed over and on our way, we've crossed over 30 and on our way to $31 billion in TLV, total locked value, around DeFi projects. It just shows the continued growth of where decentralized finance is going, but also the role that digital currencies have and will be playing. We also have NFTs, which Noble will be talking to us a little bit more about, playing a bigger role, as we're starting to see NFTs, non-fungible tokens, also that apply to things like digital art and collectibles, selling for over 6 figures, which is a new source of opportunity around income, which Noble will share more about. And Visa. Visa came out with about 6 different headlines, more about like 3 or 4, but still a slew of headlines this morning before our episode of VCTV around different types of partnerships, new funding, and new announcements and new products that they will be offering specifically around digital currencies. One in particular is the suite of APIs that they are about to release for banks around the world to start using cryptocurrencies, or digital currencies, as we'll refer to them here in the rest of the episode, throughout their everyday actions, both internally and externally as customers as well. So much more to talk about, but before we go down those rabbit holes, a quick thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. If you're liking what you heard here, click subscribe, share the article, check out the archive on latoken.com to hear from today's speakers and all of the speakers, a part of the VCTV family, as we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world, share with you their thoughts and insights and on-the-ground perspective around different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. And if you'd like to be on a show like today as an investor or as an entrepreneur, reach out to the team and or myself. We'll find that right spot for you. Speaking of team, a big thank you to the LaToken team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and jump right into introducing our guest, Noble. Welcome back to the show. A little intro and a little background, please.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me, Kyle. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud. Here, there you go. Loud and clear. You're on camera, too.
Awesome. Awesome. So my name is Noble Dracone. I'm the author of the books Winning the Trading Game and Trade Like a Pro. I've been trading futures, Forex, currencies for the last 28 years and been a noted expert. I've been on MarketWatch, Bloomberg, etc. Right now we have a company called Dracone Capital Partners, in which we help companies raise capital, as well as we team up with M Accelerator and help startups develop and find the capital they need, as well as the growth and development they really desire. I'm also the president of a company called Where Play Games, where we do mobile app development with AR and cryptocurrency in a very aggressive way, with a lot of emphasis and focus on non-fungible tokens and how that space is evolving. So happy to be here, Kyle.
Wonderful. Thank you, Noble. Happy to be here as well, and happy to have you. So thank you for that. Gary Fowler, welcome back to the show as well. A little intro, a little background, please.
Yeah, great to be here, Kyle. So my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. Was on the original management team at Click Software was sold for $1.35 billion. And also Yva.ai, an AI HR tech company that we started 4.5 years ago. I have to think about it, almost 5 actually now. Time flies when you're having fun. And it's also unicorn status. We curate companies. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio that curates companies from around the world and helps them go global using Silicon Valley as a port. Also write a lot. I've written over the last year about 120 articles on all kinds of topics, ranging from quantum computing to AI to cryptocurrencies, and like leading edge technologies are going to make a dent in the universe and have a substantial impact. So great to be here, Kyle.
Absolutely wonderful. And again, glad to have both you and Noble on the show. And during both of your introductions, actually just got an alert that we just had all-time highs on ETH as well. So again, something to play into our discussion today. And we'll stay away from specific currencies individually, but we'll talk about the picture as a whole. So if you do have any comments, questions, feel free to share them. But Noble, I want to come to you on the current state of everything. I mean, we've got central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, being talked about by almost every government around the world, whether they're central bank digital currencies or just digital currencies in general. So taking their what is current monetary way of goods to a more digital fashion. So taking it from traditional fiats and paper and coins to a digital. Or we also have stable coins. We have all of this stuff that's happening in the gaming industry. What are you seeing from your perspective on the ground that's happening as we've crossed over into 2021 around digital currencies as a whole?
Kyle, there's probably 3 layers to it. So when we start looking at the gaming space, because we're deep in it, the non-fungible token concept is really starting to gain hold. And 2 different currencies have already popped up. One by the developers of CryptoKitties that has just gone off like gangbusters. And with the anticipation that they've built a whole entire brand new protocol for NFTs to operate. And based on what they've said, they think that they've actually revolutionized and created almost DLT 4.0. And we've looked at the software, we looked at Cadence, and it has some really good legs. And there's, we talked about ETH a second ago, but we're not talking about gas. There's no gas fees. When we start getting later and later into the NFT ecosystem, different protocols just don't have the gas issue. They're operating on CPU, they're operating on RAM, and they're not forcing the customer to pay. And that makes just less friction and the ease of transferability. We also see in a big way, China's starting to become a big player. One of the groups that we're looking at has 3D and AR digital collectibles, but now they're backed it up with their own currency. And that's a huge move and a shift. And they also have a secure wallet attached to it. So people are starting to realize this digital collectible asset is really what millennials have been missing in this whole crypto space. I've traded currencies since I was 19 years old. And one of the issues that we always have to deal with is this cross-pair trading, in which the price is always fluctuating based on the transfer exchange rate. So while ETH is moving up, that doesn't bode well if you're a company that's trying to avoid spend your ETH in case it goes too much higher and try and buy goods and services now. It's very difficult to take an asset like Ethereum and Bitcoin and really think that you're going to be able to spend it on a daily basis. And that's why stable coins become so aggressive. We're looking at Akon, the singer, going into Africa, utilizing a stablecoin seller, to be honest, to try and create some kind of banking system in Africa, and it's succeeding. Countries are actually picking up and receiving his currency and paying payroll with it. So a lot of this idea that crypto is going anywhere, we're talking about the all new highs, but the reality is the trajectory is up from here. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, in order for this to kind of flatten out, we need to have more and more crypto locked up in DeFi projects so that we can create some stabilization, so that when you and I exchange, we don't have to worry about, well, if I exchange it with you now, the price is going to go up and I'm going to lose out on profit opportunity. the reality is more and more stable coins and tethered coins are going to be the norm, and there's going to be a branch off, a real division on what is considered an asset and what is considered a currency, and all of it is in the DLT space. But that's the only way this is going to work in the long haul.
That's a good point. Thank you. And the all-time highs are just a great milestone as well, showing the proof of traction. To your point, Noble, and really that infrastructure and what's happening at that infrastructure level that's expanding out. Those opportunities are even greater, and something for a lot of people to pay attention to this year here in 2021. And Gary, I want to come to you next on this again. Current state of digital currencies from your view as well.
Yes. So, I mean, this is 2021, if you look at stable coins, as Noble said, they were up, surged by almost 500% in 2020. So something's happening. So, yeah, I mean, now it's one of the most used payment systems in the world. Mm-hmm. Then you look at, it's looked at that it'll be about $150 billion market. Then you look at PayPal getting into the mix. So you've now got name brand recognition, right? And the presence of PayPal fell. So how does that start to change everything? Allowing Bitcoin and Ethereum and Libra to be able to be bought, sold, and held. It's an incredible opportunity, because what was a missing link? It was like the secretive world. What do I do? How do I get into it? When you start putting name brand recognition on it, it starts to change it. And so now it's going to open up. And I just checked, actually, that Bitcoin's at what, $37,000 again. And in fact, I talked to a group last week, and the one guy there had over $30 billion worth of Bitcoins. And, he bought them many, many years ago. So it's an incredible opportunity. Look at there's a lot of instabilities in the world today, right across the board. And so one thing that these digital currencies do, as we talk about the digital transformation and equalizing opportunity, really changes things. Not only can we do cross-border transactions a lot easier than we've ever been able to do before, but at the same time, it opens up an opportunity that if something does go down, you still got the rest of the world to back it up. So it's interesting. The one thing that is a little bit concerning is that, stable coins are backed by the US dollar. Well, what's a US dollar backed by? Mm-hmm. And when we have $1.9 trillion printing money, I had a conversation with somebody from Europe, and it said, the presses must be running out of ink. And so I don't understand it, but I'm really encouraged, because if you look at it, what's been the challenges with transactions, and I started to do transactions in Bitcoins too, is that it's been hard as hell. You got these banks and these rules and this, but the one thing that's going to be interesting to see what happens, because as we start to go down through in 2021, it's going to be bittersweet, because now we got these central banks are going to start coming in and start to look at regulation, and what is that regulation going to look like, and what kind of punishing restrictions. I mean, look at India. There's rumors circulating in India they may push for an outright ban on trading altogether. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there are rumors out there. So the question is, where is it going to go? I think eventually people are going to have to adapt it. It's just something that they're not going to be able to do, or they're not going to play in the, in the reindeer games, right? They need to get involved in it.
Well,
you remember that movie too, don't you, Noble?
It's a great movie, and it's interesting because we've also had some recent headlines. The local government in Miami is looking to pay their employees in Bitcoin, or offer it as an opportunity for them to be paid in that. We've seen, a few notable athletes look to push to do the same. More employees in general are looking to get paid in digital currencies as well. So there is a lot of movement, and if this starts to really take shape on a bigger scale, and we've got partners in like MasterCard, like Amex, who's made some very quiet but big investments in the space, like Visa, who's very aggressive amongst all of them, starting to enter. I mean, what does this start to paint a picture of? And Noble, we'll kick it off with you. What does this start to paint the picture for the nearby future as that we look at this, opening it up to mass consumers. I mean, Gary brought up PayPal. We've got Square. You've got many others who, again, continue to open this up to the masses. What does digital currencies look like in those day-to-day lives for us?
You know, it's tough. It's tough to say in some respects because most people don't even know how to set up a wallet, right? And we've talked about this before, that the difficulty and ease of acquisition of just getting the Bitcoin and the various cryptos is just kind of the biggest hurdle for really mass adoption. Some of these places, it seems to be that they're trying to catch the people who've already got involved on the sidelines, and they're looking for the opportunity. But to give you an example, when we started getting into non-fungible tokens and we wanted to operate on the WAX protocol and utilize EOS, there was like 8 steps just to get on board. And if you try and use some of the commercial, credit card opportunities to buy WAX, you're paying almost a 30% haircut. So, it seems like it's really trying to target a lot of the people who are already in, and then giving exposure to the people who are outside to maybe jump in and kind of learn those hoops. And so I think that we're at the beginning stages. You look at Stripe, which is also taking it. Everyone who's utilizing technology on different platforms, they're just getting more chances to be able to spend money, and it's a great. It's awesome. The flip side, Gary brought up a good point. Potential $1.3 trillion printing of the presses. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that the focus is not on pushing some of that out in a crypto. They already proposed it last time at the beginning of the stimulus. I'm sure it's buried deep into the bill. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I'm sure it's buried somewhere into the bill this time around. That eventually is not going. We just can't keep printing the presses. At some point, we're just going to put the ones and zeros out, and there will be 2 economies in the U.S. There'll be crypto and there'll be dollars. And I hope that it doesn't become a symbol of haves and have-nots, because that's also a negative impact, right? Because originally they wanted to give the stimulus checks in crypto to people. Does that create a quote-unquote inferior currency? Who knows? So there's all this stuff that is at play, and it's just a great time to be alive. The Roaring 20s happened in 1920 up until the war. We're kind of in the 20s again. We had a pandemic, and now we're leading in new surges, new highs in the stock market, and a whole new opportunity in currencies. And so this is the new oil. And I think that there's an opportunity almost for everybody around the corner if they keep their eyes open.
So with that being said, some new opportunities, gaming. I want to come back to this in NFTs and collectibles, because digital currencies play a role in this, or in some cases have played a role in this for a number of years. Just now there's an off-ramp, if you will, in some cases, to take what you do in the game and or otherwise and put that out back into the real world. How do you see digital currencies really merging in or emerging out from the gaming space in your mind? And again, Noble, I know you live and breathe this every day, so would love to hear your thoughts around that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly obvious that people have been playing games and casual gaming for some time now. It's hundreds of billions of dollars. Some games are doing tens of millions of dollars a day. And so now with this idea of DeFi and NFT, the players actually get a chance to make money. I've said before, and I really do believe this in all sincerity, the new gig economy is these mobile games that we're playing on our phones. That every time that you've played and you've earned points and you've gained rewards and you've gained special things in these games, up until now, people just turned the servers off and you couldn't play anymore. Farmville's gone. There's all these things that are just disappeared. And all those hours spent, all that time spent is kind of, you had entertainment, but are there other better forms of entertainment? And so now I think gaming is kind of giving people the opportunity, and we've seen it bit by bit across the board, for people just to make money at the games and not have to be esports, 20-somethings who can, be fast with their thumbs, right? If you're casually playing a game and you rack up the tokens, why not be able to take them on an off ramp, like you said, and get 10 cents on every hour you spent, or 20 cents, or whatever it is. Airlines have done it for years. Fly a certain number of miles, we give you airline. We've been dealing with a token economy for over 3 or 4 decades. People used to trade and sell airline miles all the time. It actually was huge business. We're just now allowing that to happen in the gaming industry, where there's actually a secondary and a tertiary market for it. And I think this is great. It just gives people, something extra, and they're going to need it. We still haven't recovered across the globe. That's why we're printing money.
Well, we also have a number of ETFs that are coming out as well, right? We saw, I believe it was Grayscale who announced 5 new ETFs around different digital currencies. We had a few others that got announced recently as well. So there's, again, showing more institutional demand, more demand in general looking at this. We've got MicroStrategies, who is throwing Bitcoin onto their balance sheets left and right, along with a number of other companies. How does this really play out over the next couple of years if more companies continue to do this? And Gary, let's start with you. If more companies in the enterprise space throw their balance sheet around digital currencies, how does that look for them in the near future?
Well, I mean, the situation is going to happen, right? It's a trend. It's in front of us. It's just going to happen, and you're not going to want to be on the outside looking in. But the one thing, it's interesting, and I hear this more and more and more. And I talked to the CEO of one of the top 50 companies in the U.S., and we talk about the tokenizing of data, right? And when that movement is going to take place, so we own our own data. I know that. We've talked about it in different shows, but it's very interesting. So how much are we worth, right? How much is our data worth, and do we control our own destiny? And when does that start to be some tradable token, and what's the value of that? So this is expanding very, very quickly, faster than I ever had thought. The only concern is the instability of even the Bitcoin up and down and in and out, and people are going to get burned. And the other thing is, Noble was right on target with it, being able to easily transact. It's not that easy to do it. And as we've, on one of the other shows that you had, I remember we talked to a guy who had 10,000 Bitcoins and lost them because he lost his computer. Mm-hmm. And it was when they weren't worth that much money, but now he could kick himself. So, I mean, right. So, in terms of, setting it up so it's secure, the one thing about the bank, and I'm really happy that PayPal's coming in. It's happy this becoming mainstream, but the challenge is, it's how can we keep it secured by a third-party source? I mean, using a credit card, I know. So Visa has some kind of tokens associated with it, digital currency. It's really interesting because I know that it's there and I know I can pull it out. But if it's not there, then it makes me a little bit nervous.
Right. No, that's a very good point. And that brings up another question around opportunities. We've seen a lot more opportunities start to rise out of the decentralized finance space around digital currencies. Gaming, again, is one of them, but there's many others. We've seen announcements around yields, so going into the banking and payments space as well. But would love to hear from you both as to where you're seeing the opportunities that lie, not just in the year, but maybe the year or two ahead of us. As well, because we've also got a ton of interest around the enterprise. So not just governments, but enterprise corporations looking to integrate digital currencies or decentralized finance somehow into their value chains. And Noble, let's start with you. Where do you see the areas of opportunity for those looking to start building and or to start investing in these spaces respectfully over the next, we'll call it 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, Gary will probably understand this reference. During dot-com bubble 1, like back in 99, no one could go wrong. Everyone could buy. Everything was up. It was all roses. And everybody thought they're brilliant at being able to buy, stock and this e-tailer and that e-tailer until it all collapsed. And one of the things that I think the opportunity is, because I'm a trader at the end of the day, I'm a big believer that what's going to happen, particularly with Bitcoin and some of the higher end assets, is that the shorts are going to come in. We know that the CME has already been creating options, and puts are if you start looking at the Community of Traders report, you start seeing what the puts look like. There's going to be more and more derivatives based on crypto than there has ever been right now. Now you can't do anything wrong. You buy it, you hope it goes up. But as more sophisticated institutional investors get in, they're going to change the landscape. They're going to be looking at creating multiple products based on each one. They're going to be looking at ways to create various types of derivatives, and all those derivatives are going to have increasing pressure, not only on price, but on volume. And it's also going to start trying to pull the people who are in the woodworks out, like the guy, like, Gary's buddy who bought all those Bitcoin, to find a place to land it so that he can stabilize his portfolio and keep on to the wealth that, miraculously showed up for him. That being said, take advantage of these ETFs, new long short programs. There's a swath of people as investors. We like to be on the bleeding edge of things and be on the forerunners, whether it's because of our ancestors or just something hardwired in us to just do new things. But the majority of people are not built for taking chances, and I think that if people who are really sincerely listening, they need to pay attention to the managers out there who are taking advantage of all the tools capable of taking advantage of this marketplace, so that when Bitcoin does a pullback of $10,000, you're not worried that it pull back 10,000 because you hedge the bet. You have put options on it. You've generated income from it. The sophistication over the next 18 months that's going to be coming on the crypto space is going to scare a lot of people who came in nascently as tourists when they are up against the people who have both the algorithms, the AI, and the quantum computing kicks in, that are going to really start manipulating this market in a way that's going to have people's heads spinning, to be frank. And so I think that you have to keep an open mind and not look at this as, this is a new gold rush, but a lot of it's been missed, to be frank. A lot of the gold rush side of it's missed. And so everyone's kind of grabbing at the crumbs, hoping that it's going to be this big panacea, but the sophisticates are in. And now's the time for you to pay attention to that. And now's the time for you to start broadening your horizon. It's not going away, but it also is not going to get more simple. It's going to still be difficult to get accounts. It's going to still be difficult to figure out how to trade against. And since there's no true historical data, there's no way for people to prognosticate where this is going to go, except by looking for similarities. And the best people who know how to do that are the institutionals, to be frank.
And thank you, Noble. Gary, to you, same question. Opportunity areas looking ahead, and any comments to add on Noble, but opportunities looking ahead in the next 12 to 18 months around digital currencies and what may become of them.
Yeah, so Noble's right on target. I mean, when we start to get it sophisticated, it's going to start to look at what happened with GameStop. When Robinhood, and I remember I was in the same building with Robinhood, by the way, in Menlo Park. And, look at what's happened. So, when it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact it has when the sophisticated institutional investors do get involved with it. And so then the other thing is the regulation. Where are the regulations going to come in and how powerful they're going to be? And what countries are going to be in, what countries are going to be out. So we have not answered those questions yet. And, if it's the concern is that, what happens if they decide to shut it off? I was involved in a large ICO and it got canceled, essentially. And so, we got to look at where the opportunities. The future, I believe, is bright, but it's like, again, like the Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, choose wisely.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I mean, if we're looking at this too, I mean, I'll even add in decentralized applications or dApps. I mean, decentralized apps, and again, we'll call them dApps for the remainder of the conversation. There's a huge opportunity around dApps and the future of applications. If you bring into the bigger picture of Web3 and the future of our applications being more distributed and or decentralized as well, right? Digital currencies will play a role either on a utility or on a more appropriate security side as well, right? Being able to exchange data, provide rewards or loyalties, and really help a whole new infrastructure of plumbing that's being laid right now for our near future. And I can tell you, if you look at any of the headlines that are out there and dive a little deeper, look at companies like DAP.com or DAP Radar, you can see the amount of activity that's happening in these spaces around applications. It's aplenty. A lot of stable coins also, I'll add in there, are actually building themselves, not just as stable coins, but platforms to be built on top of so that others can use that same infrastructure, build their own stable coin based environment to, again, leverage digital currencies within whatever the environment may be, whether it's gaming, whether it's agriculture, whether it's logistics, whatever industry. There's a ton of infrastructure that's been laid and is ready. There's new infrastructure that's being improved and security added on, along with scalability added on top of that as well, to really streamline the process as that consumer adoption comes to play. And Gary, I want to come back to you for closing thoughts and where you can be found online, as there's a lot to be had in this industry and a lot more to talk about. We'll be continuing the conversation tomorrow here on VCTV with a few additional guests, in addition to you both, around digital currencies and the greater picture of the market that they will play. But Gary, closing thoughts around digital currencies, and then again, where you can be found online.
You know, the one thing, Kyle, you look at it, I mean, look at, you know, and Noble mentioned it, you know, the customer loyalty points that you get on an airline, you know, and we used to get, even shopping at a grocery store, you used to get stamps, right? So imagine if you had a token, a universal token just for airlines, and be able to share them around. I mean, how things would change. So there's applications that should have been done a long time ago that are now going to be able to be done. So I'm really encouraged about that. And, you know, cautiously optimistic on the digital currencies. You know, just got to choose wisely. So you can reach me anyhow, Gary Fowler on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Facebook, Twitter. Love to hear from you. And I've got a couple of shows out there. If you Google my name and GSD, you'll see shows. In fact, Noble and yourself, Kyle, have been on the show. So it'd be great to have you. So thank you very much. It's good to be here with our family on VCTV.
Absolutely. And thank you as well, Gary. Noble, to you, closing thoughts, and also where you can be found, along with the gaming company that has been so focused around this space on the broader side of NFTs as well.
Yeah, you know, our gaming company is Where Play Games. You can find us on the App Store, Google Play, or you go to the website, whereplaygames.com, and kind of check us out. You can also find us on Atomic Hub, because that's an NFT website. So we have tons of NFTs actually that we launched there, and we're about to launch a whole new game called King of Quotes on that particular website. So we're really excited about that. You know, closing thoughts, you know, Kyle, you mentioned something about dApps. I think that dApps are awesome. I think it's great. I think people need to understand, particularly new to the space, that there's a difference between decentralized and unregulated, that there's a difference between distributed ledger technology and just a cryptocurrency, and that you can participate in this whole space without being caught up with the cryptocurrency fluctuations, but have investments and ownerships and parts of dApps and dApp development and DLT development that have nothing to do with a fluctuating currency. And so, you know, we're really excited. You can find me on LinkedIn all the time, Noble Dracone. Eventually I'll have my website up, and you can find me at Twitter, @Dracone, and just reach out to me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Noble, Gary. Again, appreciate your on-the-ground insights around digital currencies and where things are and where things are going as well. And to your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, share. Make sure you check out the archive on letoken.com to not just hear more from Gary and Noble around today's topic and a number of other topics, but from the entire VCTV family of investors and speakers from around the world, as again, we bring together the best and the brightest to provide you with the education and on-the-ground perspective around different technologies and industries and regions around the world. And if you yourself would like to be an investor on the show here at VCTV, or as an entrepreneur to share your company product or service with us and get real-time feedback, do reach out to the team and or myself. We'll find the right spot for you. Speaking of team, a big thank you to the LeToken team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day, as we couldn't do it without them. And they make sure we're here on time for you every single day, all day, and all around the world as well. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott, and along with on all social media platforms, including Gary and Noble. And make sure you reach out. When you do, please add context to where you heard us and what you would like to continue the conversation about. With that, have a wonderful day. We'll be back here tomorrow with more VCTV. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.